Okay, so continuing on with this thing, and sorry about the way that I left in the last one. It just I was kind of going down a trail that I really don't want to go down right now anyway. So I'm just going to go on another thing. And the way that I want to approach this is, I think, well, I'm following the same script as what Jesus said, and don't take this uh, negatively, because if you have bad connotations already with Christianity, I promise you, it's not anything like that at all. It's not anything like that. You'll see what I'm saying, because I want to paint a picture of a God that you can love. And when Jesus said you need the first commandment was to love God, you need to know a God that you can love. And so that's why I've kind of been open about my story. It's because I want to give you a different view of God. Like, I think I probably already said that in the last thing, but I want to give you a different view of God that will hopefully help change your perspective of how He can be with you. Because if you believe my story, then you also are believing that it's possible for you also. If you don't believe my story, well, then you pretty much have closed yourself off anyway. And there's nothing really that I can help you with anyway. So, but if you can believe my story, just that's a tiny bit, but I'll at least be open to the possibility that I'm not, that I'm telling that this is possible for you. That you can have this relationship with Him that's divine, where the divine comes in and out of your life, like what I've described over and over. I'm not exaggerating in any of that. It's life is just it's just wonderful, and it's amazing to have the divine that you can draw on anytime. And like I said, it's like Kundalini. It's a very good role model. But I'm getting off track, because I need to explain almost my religion to you in a way, and it's not. This is what's been written on me for the last year and a half. Because up to that point, my religion was really like simple. It was just it was basically just I knew I had a relationship with the divine, and I kind of hooked into the Christian thing a little bit, but I really wasn't. I really wasn't connected all that much to that. I had a really simple religion, but over this past year and a half, I've had one revelation after another, and so for me, this is how I view God now, and view this whole salvation plan and everything. And I'm going to tell you how I view it, so that maybe if you see it the way I see it, that you'll love God as much as I do, because maybe that'll help. Because I think if you already love Krishna, or if you already love Mary, I think it's okay to keep those. If you have an unconditional relationship with those deities, then they're the same thing, and you won't need anything from me. But the only reason I'm going into this, and those deities, they will lead you into truth. I believe that the time is coming, and it's right now, and they already are. I think, and for a lot of people, you're tracking with me already. This isn't anything new. You're saying yes, yes, and you can almost uh, finish my sentences already. So it's not anything new. I think this is something that's happening globally, but that we are moving along in a direction. Even if you have a divine relationship of any type with Mary, Krishna, or whatever, then you have already the basic foundation of what you need to go into what I'm trying to steer you guys into. And you need to have a loving concept of Him, a loving concept of God. And so I'm going to tell you what I believe, and it may change, and may help you to help even love God even more. Because, for instance, like with the Christians, and the Christians, they really, you've got a lot of things you got to work through to really see what God is really like. Because you think you know it, because Jesus died on the cross for you, and He did it all, and now all you got to do is go through these motions, and then no, it's a little bit deeper than that. Let me start from the beginning, what I see from the beginning, and let me just tell you from the beginning how I see the problem with mankind and where we're headed, and why this. What was the whole plan of this? Why are we even created? What is the point of it? And I do take from the Bible, but I don't take me wrong. I don't think it's a literal thing that we have to, stand on and say this is the word of God and got to. I don't take it. I don't argue the immutability of the Bible or anything like that. I don't worship the Bible at all, but I do think there's some deep truths that we can learn from those things that you might call myths, but they still represent and they still teach. I think uh, they're profound, really. Like the Garden of Eden. I look at the Garden of Eden now as, okay, let's put it into personal perspective. You're in this garden, okay. You've been. It's basically it's an ego thing. So they ate the apple, right? So, it was something that it was not a huge thing, I don't think. I think it could have gotten past that. But instead it turned into this bitch fest of Adam's blaming Eve, Eve's blaming Adam, and the snake's gonna, oh, the snake made me do it. No, oh, it's your fucking fault, God. You're the one who gave me the woman in the first place. So, that kind of thing. It became an unbearable condition. And that's been our problem with mankind, has been this ego rising. That it wasn't the birth of sin, it was the birth of ego then. And that basically just drove us out of the garden. And when I'm talking about the garden, let's put that into Kundalini terms. Kundalini terms, that basically is that severed our connection from Kundalini. It's not that we were kicked out of a garden so much. It wasn't a physical garden. It was that we were severed from our connection with Kundalini. It's because our ego, it can't survive in that world. We can't survive, being boisterous in our own individuality. We were meant to be in just in union with everything. Just there is a oneness, and we're right to feel that oneness, and we're meant to be that way. We're meant to have this oneness with each other and with all living things. But we can't. Our egos got in the way there, and our egos make it impossible. But our egos make us think that we can do that we can do it. But it's not us that does anything. It's us connecting to Kundalini, and that's really the secret of how life works. Is we connect to Kundalini for love, we connect it for joy, we connect it for knowledge, we connect it for a lot of things. And that's where we used to connect to the divine, was through Kundalini. And even in the Upanishads, and the Upanishads do show that mystic connection. It's through a dark glass, but even far back as then, I can see the same connection that I have to the Upanishads. So it is there, and particularly the way they described Kundalini with the snake and everything, because it feels just like that. It feels like a snake down in my spine. It's like it's a very good description of it. It's kind of like, how you feel kind of warm when you help somebody, or that kind of glowing kind of thing down there. It's kind of like that. It's like this turning kind of glowing thing. And I don't know if I might have covered all this back in the other one, and I'm sorry if I keep going through this, but the point that I'm trying to make is that this whole that's what we were supposed to be. We were supposed to be connected like that through this power, and that made us harmonious with everything around us, with our environment, with everything. And it actually works that way. And I can get into that. I can tell you right now that my life in the last year and a half, I was out in the yard about just an hour ago, and as I hadn't been out there a couple of days, it's been kind of cold and everything. But anyway, it was just there's just it's amazing oneness that I feel out in the yard. My birds were coming around, my squirrels coming up my deck, looking at, coming really close to me. Birds were flying through the deck, getting close to me. I mean, there's you feel a certain oneness with everything around you. It's like, this is I know what it's like now to live in harmony with everything, and to feel what it's like to feel the your plants basically saying, water me, water me, water me. Like I know that sounds crazy, but there's a certain sensitivity that you develop once you get wired like this. You find that you're connected to everything, and you feel that connection. And so that's what we used to have back in that garden, was this connection to everything that was also very unselfish. But when ego came in, that's when selfish came in, and it can't survive in that environment, because everything there is loving. And so in describing uh, my God, I you know I we need to see this as, it's not really, let me put it this way, it's not really a religious thing, but there is a certain way that we have to come in as, and I'm borrowing greatly from Jesus because this is where it comes from. Basically, I think he was teaching us how to come into Kundalini in the right way, in the way that we could come in a loving way, because that's the only way we can come in is a loving way. And so he was teaching us the first of all. Well, he would describe God. He said, "He's my Father," and he would do these miracles. If those miracles were true, and I believe that they were, but he would do these things to express the love and the real heart of God. And he was giving them a love that he was giving them a God, presenting them a God that they could love. And it's the same exact thing I'm trying to do here. So I'm trying to say here, this is what he's done in my life, and I'm trying to say to you that you can have this same thing too. And so I am presenting God in the same way that he did, and for the same purpose, to try to give you something to love, to try to give you a different picture. So I'm exposing my life for that reason, because I want you to know what he's like. And so I believe part of with the thing with the Christians, they are going to have some hard time. They are going to have some things to sort through, and they have this: you die, you live once, and then you die, and their salvation was a take it or leave it kind of thing. And that's the thing. Getting back to Jesus, that's the thing that we get off track on him because of what the Christians have polluted. What he really meant, what he really wanted to do was, like I said in the last one, was helping the Jews basically. But he's presenting a God that we could love, so that we could, because that's the first thing we have to do. So with the Christians, they have a lot of things to sort through, because you believe in hell, and that's totally against his character. That's not even in the Bible, and that never was. If you study it, and I have, you'll see that wasn't even in there. Now, I don't necessarily believe in the Bible. Like I said, I don't believe it is uh, uh, the word of God, and you can't be contested at all. It's not like that at all. But I do look at it as, for some, I will look at it to the extent that it doesn't uh, contradict an unconditionally loving God, as I understand him. But there are certain things that you don't understand, and Christians have a hard time with, like with hell. Of course, that's, how can you believe that? How can you believe this God that you love so much is also sending people to hell like that? It takes a lot of jumping through a lot of hoops for them to come to that conclusion. So you can't be too hard on them. They're like any other cult. If they've been conditioned to believe that through a series of swallowing smaller other things, that eventually led to them swallowing a camel that thinks that this God that it's so loving is also so capable of of endless torture, and it never was. It never was, and so that's why it's hard to fall in love with the Christian God, because that's the only one you know, but that wasn't in there originally, and Jesus never said that, and anything in there that you'd have to look into it a little bit, because there's a couple of places where it would seem like he says that. You really you need to look into it to even think that, but don't automatically trash him as a teacher for gaining entrance into this garden or into Kundalini, simply because of what the Christians have done with it, because they made it into a salvation thing and then forced people to accept it. And I want to tell you something: that beast in Revelations, the seventh, that one head that has the mortal wound that was looked like it was mortally wounded, but yet he's somehow living, and now they're worshiping him as God. Who do you think that is? It is the Christian church for sure. That's it, and that political machine behind it is the United States. It's very clear. The buy or sell, unless you have the mark. They've been using sanctions. They're using that was predicting sanctions right there. But anyway, I'm getting off track here. But what I'm saying is that the Christian church, it's not the right. It's not even the right Christ. You're following the wrong Christ. Your version of Christ is not even real. It's not even real. You've made him into a demigod or something, and I think that was a wrong. And that's why people don't think that they can. Here was Jesus. He was trying to teach us how to evolve. In those 30 years that he lived, he learned a lot of things. And when he was started teaching, because he had evolved, he was trying to teach us a way to evolve. That's all. It's just, he is a man trying to teach us a way to evolve, the Jews in particular, because they were going to need that kundalini desperately. And so that's how that happened. So, so Jesus is trying to lead us into kundalini through loving, through a loving, more loving version of God. And remember, what was the version of God then anyway? Um, the Jews had made they had taken it to extreme measures, and become a very burdensome religion. And Jesus is trying to free them from all of that, and free them from that bondage, and from all that heavy. He was saying this heavy. It was a light load, not a heavy one. And so any religion that's dumping more shit on you is that may not be the same one that he's talking about, and I'm talking about the same one that he's talking about. So we're kind of on the same vein on that. So anyway, so he was presenting a God that you could love, and that's the first key, that you learn to that you have at least the foundation of a God you can love. And I know that for people that believed in non-dual thing, that can't even accept that possibility. I know that's a rough one. I don't even know how to help you, other than to try to say that there is a better whatever. I know that some people can't even get the concept of a loving God, and I hope that somehow I think there's got to be a way. I think there's got to be a way for it. I mean, just I don't know what to say. I I I, I it really hurts me a little bit to see just the vacant lives, it seems like, that you've reduced yourself to, and coming to these conclusions that you're nothing but nothing, or you're oneness with everything and nothing really matters, and why do anything? And I don't know how you exist, or how you live like that personally. I know you're used to it. I know that for you, you found peace with it. I know that for you in meditation, you found that, and I'm happy for that. But I think I have something that might be that you might find more fulfilling. That's just me. And if you're listening this far, you're at least open to the idea. So, but I really feel for you. But the thing that you have in your favor is that you've learned practices like meditation that they're really going to help you, because I'll tell you the way that I come in, the way that I do meditate, but mine is more of the contemplative meditation. And this is where she speaks, is in the realm of thought. And that's why that's why I think you might be going a little bit too far when you totally exclude all possibility of thought in your meditation. Because I know the Christian mystics, I believe this is how they went in, was through contemplative meditation. And I don't know if the Sufis do that too, or what. I really don't look into it that much, but this is what I kind of have a feeling. And I know with the Kabbalah guys, what little I know about them is that they had these beautiful prayers that they would recite, and those things kind of led them into it. And that's kind of the same thing, kind of a contemplative thing. Me, I'm just I find that the thoughts come, that there's thoughts, and they come up like photographs, and there's a thought here and there's a thought there, and they compare, and so I'm comparing thoughts to thoughts. But meanwhile, I've also got the physical thing going on too. So when a thought clicks, it's almost like there's two voices that speak at the same time. This is how I'm just telling you. This is how I personally hear it, and for you that get to meditation and you get to that inner peace. Well, this is what I experience. I experience the thoughts that are teaching me. They're never words. You never hear words, and 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 to be honest, the way that the way that she but the way that she talks is, it's never with words. And if you ever hear words, I would really suspect that as being your interpretation of a thought that she's trying to put in your head, but you're already interpreting that and putting words into it and putting words in her mouth, which is, by the way, how most religions are created, almost like that. We put words into her mouth, kind of like Lassie. Lassie, you say, oh, Lassie, you're talking to Lassie. Yeah, I'm kind of going down a little rabbit hole here, but I'm telling you how sometimes these things work out. You're talking to Lassie, and you're telling, and Lassie's come to you, right? If you don't know what Lassie is, I'm not going to go into it. But Lassie's like a dog, okay? and dogs, and this dog like communicates with barks, and these kids will somehow read into a couple of barks exactly what this dog is saying. Like the dog comes out of nowhere, barks a couple times, and the kids already know, oh, little Jenny's down by the creek and she's, falling off her bike and she's got a bruised leg and she's trapped because the creek overflowing or something. And so the dog barks, yes, barks twice, and so they run, or they'll kind of milk it out of her. Oh, she's down the creek, yes. Oh, but she's got this. No, no, but this, yeah. And then it barked twice. And so, so there's this little, and you can see, but that's how a lot of religions are created. It was basically like that. We don't hear voices directly. A lot of these things that we think that are dictated, including the Upanishads, were things that we've heard in our minds, and we dictate however we interpret them. And so that's how a lot of that stuff comes up. And so I don't really know why I got off on this track, but I think I just wanted to go down this rabbit trail for a reason. But anyway, so what I'm getting back to, I hope, is um, I'm sorry. Uh, okay, so I'm gonna pause it. Sorry, just a second. So getting back to the dog barking thing. So what I think the point that I'm trying to make with that is that our our paths that we have created to the divine have all basically been built on these our reading into those dog barks, our methods. So like every religion is kind of the same way. They found something that worked, and then they ran with it, and so they ran, and so they build a whole religion based on an experience or something like that. But that's kind of how that worked that way, and that's kind of how it works in us sometimes that way. We can create our own religion in that way, and we can actually can she I'm getting off track here. I'm sorry. Okay, so I'm gonna try to get back on track. I'm sorry about that. I'm trying to stay a little bit, on target, but I just get off. I'm so I'm so zealous of the truth, and I go down these rabbit holes because they're important points to me. And so I'm really sorry for that. But anyway, but I want to get back to that garden. Okay, so the problem was the ego. So here's what we've been doing. We've been reincarnating all along, and we've been working out these things through our egos have basically been the problem. And within every religion, you know that the only time you could ever touch the divine is when your ego is down, and that's always been the case. Even in meditation, your ego has to be lowered. It's in a lower place. Then you can feel that peace. And it's the same in the Christian circles, because the only time they ever feel the touch of God, the only time they ever feel a personal touch, and I mean a physical personal touch, or any kind of spiritual encounter, is when their egos are also down. And so the way they get their egos down is through devotion and through singing songs and things like that. And they get their hearts contrite. And so their workaround, their temporary respite, and to come into the presence of the divine, was also through lowering the ego, and in a kind of a sense, their form of meditation was through just it was through through some of it through song, a lot of it is through uh, but it's through a devotional, it's through the heart, the it's through love basically. And for them, it's a different kind of thing for them. You're kind of going through the mind as far as the meditation. That's kind of a mind way into the Kundalini, through the peace, and they're coming in through the love, and their experience. Like I said, the only time they ever feel uh, that touch is when their ego's down. The same with that I can see with the native people. They're very humble people, and they also believe, egos. In those tribes, they learn to live without the ego. I mean, ego's not tolerated, and they live at peace with each other because they don't think of themselves anything like that. You know, people have their place and their position, even with their sexuality and stuff. I mean, they're very accepting in a lot of ways. You know, from what I've read, I'm not saying I've studied them or anything like that, but from what I've read, they're a very peace loving people, and they've come in also with low egos, and and this the eye through ayahuasca and things like that, they're taught by the spirit in their own special way, and it's actually really beautiful. But the reason why they have a deeper relationship, I think, than any other religion is because it's a simple obedience to a simple uh, a faith, and the spirit says do this in their tribes, and they do it this way, and each tribe does it their own little way, and nobody really, it's all one, and it's like they each within their own communities have their own its own single organism, and it's like that. These tribes, they're beautiful and like their own single cell organisms, and they know the secrets that of Kundalini, and of the Mother Earth, and that what they hurts themselves. So they can't hurt another person in their tribe because it does hurt themselves. And any one of them that's hurting, they're all hurting, and they all share those kind of things, and they live at peace, and they live in harmony with the nature and with the earth as much as possible. I don't know where they are now. I don't know if they've lost their religion or not, because like I said, I don't really study it at all. But I know that in what I've read of them, what I've seen of them, I see a sweet a sweet relationship to Mother Earth, and that also is a loving relationship. And so their connection to the divine, it's also, like I said, their egos are low, and it's a little more. I think it's a little bit deeper because of their ego being a little bit less, and because of their cultures, and so that's a big key to this thing is keeping your ego low, and you have to have that. So the biggest, like I said, I'm following a script that Jesus said. I'm not doing anything different than that. I'm following his script, so I'm not giving you anything different. I'm just stripping away all the bullshit from the Christian church, and you can leave all that stuff. You don't need anything else other than the Gospels really do help, and there's the red letters. They do it really do help. And if I were you, I'd keep Revelations because I think that's going to come in handy too. But just keep those things, and that's good. You don't have to go to church or anything like that, you know. But you need to find a loving uh, way to love God, and if it helps, then I'm not pulling your leg on my story. I'm telling you the truth, and I think it's possible for us to find a way into this Kundalini, because I know I'm there. I'm there. And this Kundalini thing, it it will it will revolutionize everyone's life that has it, and But anyway, so I'm in trying to give you a picture of God that you can love, and I need to pause and figure out what I'm going to do. Thanks. So I wanted to get to what are my tips for um, accessing this thing. I mean, what do I do? What is it that I do? And maybe it will help you too. So I'm just going to tell you what I do. And like I said, I have a contemplative meditation thing where I can sit for hours. And as a matter of fact, I do hours. And you don't have to do this yourself. It's what I personally am drawn into is a very deep I'm in this place for hours a day, not only at work, and I'll break off from here and you see me on Facebook or whatever, but for the most part I'm there with her. I'm in conversation. I'm in this communion, or I'm being taught the way that I'm telling you. I'm seeing these pictures and these concepts that are coming together, and a lot of this stuff that's coming to me faster than I can write it down right now. It's amazing, and this Kundalini knowledge. And so you're getting some of this stuff hot off the press a little bit, and some of it stuff. Sometimes I'll write stuff down, and I'm not saying every word that I say is inspired, but I'll go back and I'll read them, and I'm blown away myself because I'm understanding, and then I'm learning also at the same time. So it's like this is a process that's happening to me, and so I'm just following along in this process and trying to bring it to you as I get it, because I think it's important. And if, well, whatever, do whatever you want with it. You can put this in with the other cat videos or whatever, but use it. I hope it helps you. So what I'm okay, what was I saying? Oh yeah, okay. So my tips. I like I said, I do it sometimes for hours, and I'll do it at work, and I'll do it. But the main thing is just do this. All you gotta do is do first, like I said, you need to have at least the concept of the possibility that God loves you and wants to speak to you. Or I'm telling you, I know it sounds corny, and I'm not trying to lead you into the Christian church. I'm really not. It's not even. I don't even want to lead you into that Christian concept. And I really hate even going anywhere close to it. But I can't abandon Jesus because he's the best teacher, and everything you need is right there, and it's so simple. But it is a process that's going to take some time. This isn't a quick thing, but it's actually a process that you'll learn to love. It could take some time. I'm still going through this process, and I'm not going to say that I've arrived completely because I'm still growing. I'm still growing, but I can say for sure that I think I'm a little bit ahead of most people. So just take it as somebody that's a little bit ahead who's trying to help you along the path, and then we'll be fine with it. I don't really want anything else from you. That's it. Just don't give me too much shit about this, really, please. I don't want to get crucified. But anyway, um, so my tips are, yeah, like I said, but go outside, and get by yourself, and leave the phone, leave everything, leave all your electronics, and you can use the meditation techniques, but don't go so far that you've totally blocked out all thought. I don't know if that's possible, but your practice of sitting, of stillness, of breath, that all that those things, those things can be helpful. They really can be in this, because you want to be able to hear. I don't really have to go through those steps myself, and I think once you hear, and once you get to understand how this works, and you won't even need to go through those either. You'll be able to access her at any time, and you'll have confidence. You're not just hearing spooky little woo woo voices in your head. No, it's a two-pronged way of communication that is, like I said, is both thought and feeling, and the both of them together, they're unmistakable. So I'm not leading you into some sort of a woo woo thing. I'm trying to point you into something. And so this is what I'm saying: go outside. You don't need to take a Bible or devotional or anything like that. If you have connected to this, if you have connected, and you feel the divine already, then that's good. Then go out and go outside still, and do. If you need to do that to get close to her, then go ahead and use that. But be willing to slowly back away from those, because those are like training wheels, like the worship and things like that. They're they're training wheels that help you, but they get in the way. They'll get in the way, and I know that you've used teachers, but I want you to back away from them a little bit, because you can't hear from her sometimes if you're hearing if you just rely on teachers. You can hear her, and you can trust me that she will teach you, because this religion is actually very simple. This religion is going to be written in your heart, and I don't feel a need that I need to tell you everything that I believe, but I can give you some pointers to help you find a more loving God. Like if you have questions, I'd like answers. Like, oh, what about that 4-year-old girl that died? Well, reincarnation answers a lot of those questions. What about predestination and free choice? Reincarnation answers a lot of those questions. There are a lot of things that I could answer for you that might help you in some of these questions, like why does it why do all these troubles exist and all that thing. God's not in control of this world. He gave it to us. He's coming back to take control, but it's been in our hands. We're the ones that fucked this up. We're the ones that are about ready to blow ourselves up. We're the ones, and it's not pointing finger at, you're not going to burn in hell or anything like that. But I'm saying don't blame God for this. This is ours. This is our bad. The cancer, don't blame God for that. We're the ones that fucked with our food. If we'd have eaten healthy food, we wouldn't have had this problem. If we'd have lived the way that we should have, and we wouldn't have many of these problems. And the social problems, the same thing. Do you realize that we're like an organism? And it would, with our criminal system, think of this organism as you're pointing, as you're pricking pin in this little cell or something. You're hurting that cell over here. I'm trying to explain this. What I'm saying is that in our criminal system of punishment, for example, punishing over here causes a problem over there. So in other words, this thing about quantum physics, yeah, it's true. You can see it right there. You can see it right there. When you punish over here in this jail, you got an outbreak over here in the city of violence over here. That's kind of what I'm seeing things, how I'm seeing our connection. We're all connected. We need to look at things that way. We need to look at things that way. And once we start doing that, that is the second part of how we connect to this community. Is we see that we're one. We see our connection, and that's where you need to have an idea of individuality, because you need to serve one another. We need to serve not just one another, the other humans, but we're also serving plants. We're also serving the animals around us. We're serving the world, nature. We're serving our own bodies, because even in our own bodies, there are cells that have intelligence, and there these things are. Excuse me. These things are. This, yeah, there is intelligence in there. We're to be servants, and so the loving one another and loving each other. That's all part of it. Seeing that unity, not only with each other, with mankind, but also with nature, with everything. You have to see this commonality, the oneness that you are sensing when you're in your meditation. That is true. There is a oneness to us, and we need to see that. It's not that you are everybody. It's just that there is a oneness that we need to see, that when we hurt, when one person hurts, we all hurt. In your own family, when the baby cries, who's hurting? Everybody's hurting, because everybody wants to help and comfort that baby as soon as possible, because all of your emotions are affected by that baby. And so it's the same way in society, in that, like I said, with the example with the jails and the prison system. But in that case, if you're hurting somebody in your family, you're hurting your whole family. And of course we know that, but that's what we're doing in our societies. We're hurting somebody in our own family, and it's hurting the whole family. That's what it's doing. And that's how Kundalini was supposed to help us with that. It's going to help us with that, because Kundalini is something that will help us in society to function even better. Well, we're not really functioning all that well now anyway. Take a look at it. We all know we're in dire straits, and that's for a reason also. We're coming to a head, to a point, and we're all going to have to, we're all going to evolve, or we're all, it's basically, we're going to evolve, okay? And you do have a choice. You don't have to evolve, and you can keep doing things the way you want to do it. But the rest of us are going to evolve, and this is how it's going to go, and we're going to evolve, and that we're going to learn how to use Kundalini, and learn how to be part of the fabric of society, the fabric of the world, of the fabric of the creation. We are a part of that, and we're caretakers here. We're not supposed to be served. We're not supposed to be. We're caretakers, and they will also take care of us, and they will supply us, and we will supply them. That's how it's always worked, and it's how it's supposed to be, in harmony with each other. So that's the loving each other part that Jesus is saying. He's bringing us into line. He's drawing us into a place where our hearts are aligned, and what he's doing in these teachings are he's aligning our heart chakra. Basically, if that's how you understand it, let's call it a heart chakra, so that Kundalini can flow through us, because we need that Kundalini to even love. Even when you love your dog, that's not your love. And That's love passing through you to that dog. That's like Mother Nature loving that dog through you. When you have that baby, when you born that baby, the first thing you're doing, you're nurturing her, yeah, sure, and you're breastfeeding her, yeah, sure. But you know what the most important thing you're doing? You're feeding her Kundalini. She's living on that Kundalini, that love, and you can feel it. I think the mother feels it probably more than anybody at that time. Maybe that's one of the most significant times of your Kundalini is when you have that first child and you're feeling, and I felt it with my child, holding it, that warmness, that's Kundalini, and that's a small little fraction of Kundalini, and we can access the Kundalini whenever we want on demand. That Kundalini can stop a raging ego in no time, but we need to learn how to use it. Like I said in the last one. So that was the second commandment, right? Loving each other. His third commandment was kind of hidden, but it was all spread out throughout his gospels, and that was to crucify your ego. He was always saying, the meek, you're the ones that are going to inherit the earth. Humble yourselves, turn the other cheek, don't fight, don't raise up that sword. You will live a better life if you just live peaceably. And Martin Luther King, said the same thing. And the greats of the world have seen the same thing that they that he said, and but the trick of Kundalini is by keeping that ego down. Like I said, that's where all religions are. That's where the only time you ever touch the divine is, like I said, is when your ego's down. So you need to develop a lifestyle where your ego is down, and that's why he kept saying, crucify your ego in so many words. Just read every time he talked. You can trace it back to the ego. He's trying to get you to love God, love each other, and crucify your ego. And if we did those things, we were in line, aligned. Our heart chakra was aligned. And I think with the guys that are doing that are believing in non-duality, are insisting on it, you're cutting off the blood to your heart. You really are. It's like a tourniquet. That belief is cutting it off. Just let it up a little bit. You can always go back to that belief. Let up a little bit. Open up yourself to the possibility that there could be a God out there that's separate from you, that wants to communicate with you, that wants to have a relationship with you. And it's actually, it's just so beautiful. And I can describe it over and over again. And if I did, I'd probably start weeping on here again. But I don't, I'm not gonna, I don't need to go there. But it is just amazing. And that's what we're headed. That's what we need. We need, when we go into the next age, we can't have greed anymore, and we can't have egos anymore. The earth is going to be purified, and it's going to be purified both physically and spiritually, and that's the whole point. We can't go into the next age like this. And the Christians thought that Jesus is coming around on a cloud or something like that. It's not going to happen that way. It's not going to happen that way. The rapture, they thought they were going to get caught up and just float off into the sky and watch the rest of us suffer down here on earth while they wait and then come back. And it's just a ridiculous story. But no, we are going to go through a hard time. And we are going to go through a purging kind of thing. But here's the thing. Get outside. Get connected. When you get outside, I'm getting back to my tips. I'm kind of getting off. When you get outside and you feel anything that's anywhere resembles that warm feeling like a mother's nurture, you know what I mean. Some of you already experienced it. I don't even need to explain it to you. But the ones of you out there that haven't felt loved, haven't felt a touch on you that has been distinctly loving, not just a serene, peaceful thing, and that's good. That really is good, but a definite sense of being loved, because that's unmistakable. It's unmistakable, and you'll know it. And that's what you're looking for. Go outside and wait for that, and then realize that that's one of the ways that she's beginning to communicate with you. Don't cut off your thoughts. Let her use your thoughts. Let her bring concepts to you. But it's not a bad idea to come up with ideas or questions, or just ponder things, or Just the stuff I'm telling you. This is great stuff to ponder. Go out and ask your deity, or just open yourself up and say, you don't even have to make a official prayer or anything like that. Just go outside and just wait. Just wait with the expectation that, or with the intent that you want to see if there's any truth to this. Get to that place where you find uh, that love, and I think you will. I think she will begin to speak, and maybe she will speak through what I'm saying to you, and maybe not. She could use anything, and that's what I'm saying. What's really beautiful about her is that she uses nature a lot for me, a lot too. I could learn a lot from nature, and so could you. And that's what I'm saying. You could go outside and learn more from nature than you can from books and from a teacher. You're struggling with these levels of consciousness, but you can go outside and you can learn about duality right away because it's everywhere. And so it it's something that we can learn a lot about. There are so many things that I can get into that basically where Jesus said things on heaven, on earth as it is in heaven. There are things that if you want to know what it is like in the spiritual realm, you can see things in this earthly realm that will explain things to you. And so there's a lot of things I'm not even going to go down into that road because it's just a track that I don't want to go down right now. So anyway, I want to stay on track and say, okay, so get outside, listen for that voice, and cultivate a relationship of love. Do the things that you would do for as if your lover was out there. And here's another thing that's really a secret. This is really important too, actually. With Jesus, a lot of times he compared us to brides, or the church to the bride, and this is really, really important. That the Kundalini is a feminine divine, right? And to be connected to this feminine divine, what I have found is that I need to be connected to the feminine side of me. There is a feminine side in all of us, and we need to be able to connect to that feminine side. It's nothing to do with, it's not gay or anything like that. It's basically an attitude of heart of being surrendering, of submission, of not dominance, just of acceptance. And that's kind of the heart attitude that you really that you need to have. And when Jesus said, "Be like the bride," you're like a bride. That's really the secret. And I'm gonna tell you that I am constantly in this position of being like the virgin that's waiting for the master to come. In that I'm constantly listening. I'm constantly waiting. I'm constantly hearing, and I'm constantly uh, it's just a constant thing. When I'm at work, I don't have. I used to listen to music all the time, but I don't do that anymore because I want to hear anything. Sometimes his voice comes and goes. Sometimes, I mean, the presence comes and goes, but and sometimes it can be a couple of days. Sometimes it's not always there. And don't let me get the impression that it's like this full-on burner all the time. It's not. But his presence is with me pretty much all the time now, for the most part. But there have been times, and there are still times when he'll be gone for a couple days, and I'll just be waiting, and it's not like frustrating. I used to get worried about it, and at the very beginning of this awakening, I was very worried about it. I thought it was going to disappear on me, and that's why I started uh, Facebooking and everything on it, because it was like I was writing a love letter to myself, and feeling like if I ever doubt myself that this ever happened, at least I can go back to this and remember what it was like for those 2 weeks that I thought was probably going to last. And here it is, oh, it's coming up on 2 years now. Not still a year and a half, but and I'm secure in it now. So when those days came in the early days, I would be a little bit worried about it. Is it over now? Was that a fade thing? Has it faded out? Because it's very significant. And I didn't want to see it go. But over the time, it's gotten to where I can have confidence in it, and so can you. So will you be able to have confidence in this thing? But it's a growing process. And so once you establish this relationship, she will tell you everything. She will begin to teach you. She'll begin to speak to you she'll reveal things to you. She'll reveal things about yourself. Then the most beautiful thing about this relationship that I have is that she brings back memories, and they're my memories too. I was there too, but she brings back memories, and she shows me those memories looking through her eyes, and I see that love that she had for me at that time, and how she saw me, and part of eternity, I think, and part of the love relationship. Actually, a big part of the love relationship I have with him is in just going back and revisiting some of those memories, and just and just I mean, I have a lot of special times, just like photographs, that I can go back to, and and remember specific things within my relationship with him, and those are gems for me. Those are things that I can always pull out and always relive, and that's part of it. And sometimes I wonder if I believe that been reincarnating all along, like I said, and going back to that whole reincarnation thing. I believe that mankind has come to this stage where we are ready to evolve. Yeah, like I said, our egos. Hopefully, our egos are lower because, well, let's face it. I'm basically telling you the same thing Jesus told you. You know, I'm basically asking you to believe me as being somebody special who has special knowledge, who's trying to lead you into the kingdom through, and I'm forced to expose myself like that because I need to give you guys a better version. But your egos, I think your egos are able to handle it. You know, that you don't look at me, if you don't look at me like I'm trying to get one up on you or something, or be famous or whatever. It doesn't matter. But that's a good reflection of you. That means that your ego's down. It doesn't matter to me whether you what you think of me. But if you're looking at me and you're able to hear me, that's a really good sign, and it means your ego's down. So you can come this way. You can come this way. And there's nothing for you to lose. I'm not asking for your money. You're not giving, I'm not asking for your soul or anything like that. I'm not asking you to put a mark on your forehead. Nothing like that. And I never would. And this is basically just saying, come this way. I think I know a way for you to have life. That's all it is. And I'm saying the same thing that Jesus is exactly saying the same thing. I'm basically just taking all of his ideas and I'm just repeating them to you. But the thing is that I do have this special thing with him, and that's why I can't deny it, and so it's the way it is, and but anyway, so it's for you too. It's for you. It's for you too, and I think you can get here too if you can just, like I said, try this, try it. You got nothing to lose. You can always go back to your non-dual world or whatever if you want. It's not really a problem. I don't think. Maybe I'm simplistic. But I think once you get touched by this love, you'll never want to go back. You won't, because your life will be fulfilling. And no, I'm sorry, I don't mean to say that because your life probably is fulfilling, and I don't mean to insult you like that. And if you have a life of devotion, I don't mean to take that away from you, because that devotion is a foundation that you can use. It just means you have to change your perspective just a little bit. You might need to change your perspective just a little bit on some of those issues like hell, and you might need to accept reincarnation in order to find a more loving God. But the thing is, I know it's hard, and but I don't mean to insult you, but if you love Mary, you can love her still, and let her change her. Let her teach you. But I think something new is coming, something new, and I don't know if this is going to go into the same wineskin that you've been used to. So I think this is all going to go into a new wineskin. But the thing is, what's beautiful about this is that it's going to be written in your own heart, and you'll know it in your own way, and you won't need any more teachers. You really won't, and you won't need me or anybody. I'll help you, and we'll all help each other. And that's the other thing I want to say about this thing is that the Christians think that heaven is coming down on a platter, that it's gonna their golden streets are just gonna kind of lie right down and they're just gonna walk right in. No, it's not that. It's not that. Heaven, my revelation, I believe that heaven is going to be passed from one person to the next. That we're all going to be involved in this. This isn't coming down out of the sky and Jesus slaying all the enemies with some sword thing that the Christians believe. It's not that. We got to pass it along one to another. We're going to help each other. We each have our own gifts. We each have our own purpose. And this heaven, the purpose of us is to work with God, and work with Kundalini, however you want to look at it. But our purpose was to work with them, and so that's what's going. That's what's going on. That's what's happening. Um, I don't know what else to say. It's almost 55 minutes. If you have any more questions, I'm not sure where else I'm going to go from here, but I wanted to at least give you an overview. And I know it's a lot of stuff to take. And I know it's a radical different view for a lot of people, but think about it. The religion is supposed to be simple. It's supposed to be that a little child can come in and understand it. And so you're going to have to be like little children, just like Jesus said, to come into this thing. You have to be little children. And what I mean by that is that your egos are down. That garden has a lot of significance in that whole, like I said, there was a whole ego thing that drove us out. And the whole thing with the nakedness, that was really symbolic, and I think it's kind of symbolic of our ego, because all of a sudden we were naked, and all of a sudden we were aware of it. That's your ego. All of a sudden you felt, uh, uh, that's our ego, and so we got the fig leaves where we're are symbolically trying to cover our egos. We need to go back into that garden naked, and it's the only way we're ever going to get back in is naked, like children, and we need to be loving, and we need to have a loving relationship with the divine mother, however you want to look at it, however you want to name her, Sophia, Mary, it doesn't matter. The names don't really matter. What matters is the heart and where your heart's at. So those three things, love God, so important. You need to have that. It has to be. That's the foundation. Love each other. Our union, our union with everything, not just people, but with everything. And then crucify your ego. That's that's the basic things. I know that those are things are easier said than done, but go down this path. Try it. Just go down this path, because I'm telling you, I'm leading you to a better place, and it's the place that we were meant to be. So I hope that helps, and I'm gonna do more, but I just don't know where I'm gonna go from this. So thanks for your patience, and I know these are really rough, but there you go. Bye.